Hello and welcome to The Long Couch. My name's Carl. I'm joined by Mel.
Hey, I have COVID.
On today's episode, we're going to be discussing things that didn't age well. Kind of like me. Just going to get that joke out of the way. Nobody needs
There
to
you
make
go.
it going forward. Obviously, we're going to dig into things that were from the past, of course, and
Yeah.
looking at them in a modern light. It's a little questionable. It doesn't really hold up the way, or it doesn't have the same intent that it did at the time.
I could only imagine what you've got lined up.
I've got a couple categories of things that didn't age well. So let's start out with advertisements. So
Okay.
advertisements are, of course, supposed to appeal to people of the time and their sensibilities. So when we look back at ads from, the late 1800s, early 1900s, even like the 50s and the 60s, 70s, we realize how far we've come on certain scientific beliefs and cultural norms. So let's get into the first one here. This is a 7-Up ad from the 1950s, which encourages parents to start cola earlier for a better life. Start cola earlier. So here's an excerpt. Babies who start drinking soda during that early formative period have a much higher chance of gaining acceptance and fitting in during those awkward preteen and teen years. So you do yourself a favor. Do your child a favor. Start them on a strict regimen of sodas and other sugary carbonated beverages right now for a lifetime of guaranteed happiness.
Oh, wow. Okay, this one, right out the gate, I don't even know if this really makes a lot of sense to me. It's like, hey, listen, are you scared that your baby's gonna grow up to be a fucking friendless, antisocial loser? Well, I have the cure for you. Have him drink 7 Up multiple times a day. Your
Yeah.
infant breast milk, you don't need to nurse your child. Just pop in a fucking bottle of 7 Up? Are you for real?
I mean, today, if you see a baby drinking soda, you would, like, okay, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but you would definitely, like, raise an eyebrow or two at that.
I mean, yeah, it's not like that's like the worst possible thing for a baby. It's not like giving a baby like a cigarette and saying, "Have at it, baby." But
Right.
uh, but
Not good.
I feel like that's just causing problems early on. You're like going out of your way to just like be like, okay, let's just go ahead and skip all of the baby stuff and just go ahead and get straight to the over sugar processed stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do think that this ad is intended to be funny. I don't think this is, like, genuinely their stance. But still, it could be easy enough to take this in the wrong way, and I think this is kind of a harmful sentiment to put out there.
I mean, yeah, probably.
And the idea is that, well, hey, if your kid grows up and be a preteen or whatever, as long as they drink soda like all the other boys, they'll fit in just fine. Be like
Yeah,
everyone
they'll be
else.
fine. They'll fit in with the crowd. They'll have friends. Everyone will. I mean, imagine. I mean, everyone's in a circle in the schoolyard sipping 7 Up, and your kid's out there, sitting by himself with no 7 Up in sight, none to call his own.
He's drinking water.
I mean, that could be a travesty. That could
Yeah.
be a real problem.
Okay, next up, we've got an even more harmful ad featuring babies. So these
Nice,
are Marlboro. I don't ever know how to
nice. That was
pronounce
a good one.
that. Yeah, all right, I tried. Cigarette ads from the 1950s. And they all are featuring, of course, babies saying things like, Mom, can you actually afford not to smoke? And, this is a very questionable because nowadays we realize that secondhand smoke can, drastically harm infants and babies and even sometimes lead to SIDS.
I feel like advertising in general, like product consumption during this time period, was kind of just like the Wild West in terms of this sort of industrial boom. Some would even call it a revolution. People have been smoking cigarettes for years. I mean, we are growing cigarettes. We were growing cigarettes. We were growing tobacco, when people first came over to the Americas.
Mm.
But it's just like the convenience of like factory rolled cigarettes and the convenience of leaded gasoline and lead paint and all of this stuff. It's like this was kind of like the perfect time period for all of these things that we have no fucking clue what long-term exposure does, and just consume all of them at once. Cigarettes being one of them, and babies getting secondhand smoke being a massive one.
Yeah, at the time that this ad was created, they just thought, well, let's just put cute babies in our ad campaign for cigarettes.
Yeah,
no problem.
Exactly. We're selling cigarettes. Babies are cute. Let's do it.
Yeah, and
No harm, no foul.
cigarettes, we don't really know the long-term effects of these. We don't know that they're bad for babies. I mean, maybe they did to some extent. I can't really speculate about the 1950s.
I feel like they probably to some extent were like maybe babies should not be inhaling cigarette smoke, but I feel like they definitely didn't know how bad it was.
Maybe they figured, babies probably shouldn't smoke themselves. You should wait till like you're 8 or 9 years old to start smoking.
Yeah, maybe wait until you're like 5 or 6 before you start smoking packs.
Right, so you can fit in with everybody else. But
hey, man, if they can talk, if they can talk, they can puff a Marlboro Red.
Hell yeah, brother. Okay, here's some more evidence that we didn't know how bad cigarettes were back in the day. I say that as if I was there. But here's one from the 1940s.
I like that there's kind of like this sort of this like fight for who has the healthiest cigarette.
So here's a 1940s ad for Camels. It says, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette, which I guess is, yes, trying to imply that this is the most healthy cigarette.
Yeah, there's like this competition. It's like, I was at a doctor's office the other day, and one of the doctors had like a bunch of like these posters like hung up.
Oh yeah.
Because it was just, it kind of was kind of like a time capsule, like all of these posters being like 9 out of 10 doctors recommend this cigarette, or try this cigarette for like almost like it was like this, it's like an alleviation of symptoms. It's like this cigarette will make you feel better. And it's just so funny that it's just like...
I see.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're saying, out of all the bad cigarettes, this is the most healthy one. They're saying this cigarette is the most healthy, mood booster, and it alleviates symptoms. Like, this is a health product that we're selling you.
Well, no, I mean, it is that this is the most this is the least bad out of all of the ones, but, like, it's almost like doctors were, like, hyping up cigarettes. Like the cigarette companies were like, hey, doctors say ours is not only safe, but, almost good for you.
Almost good for you. Okay.
Yeah, right. And then, now it's like, I can't imagine any sort of board of doctors getting together and 9 out of 10 of them being like, yeah, this is cool. This is an okay thing to do.
They could probably point to like, this is the most healthy cigarette, but, the most healthy cigarette is like, I don't have an analogy for that, but next up we have Joe Camel, who came out in Europe in 1974 and in the US in 1988 before being retired in 1997. Do you have any speculation as to why they retired Joe Camel?
He was too cool.
Too cool. Especially
too
to
cool.
the kids.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not supposed to smoke cigarettes, then why does the Camel make them look so enticing?
Right.
No, I have no idea why he was banned. I'm not even a bit.
Well, I mean, usually cartoon characters, they use those to market
with children.
Yeah, to kids. This would be perceived as being more appealing to kids and kind of like you're selling cigarettes to kids. And, certainly by the late 90s, we have realized that cigarettes are not good and we should not get kids smoking as early as possible, which was kind of the unintended side effect of this ad campaign. I mean, like, you're no longer allowed to target children directly through your ads and say, come on, start smoking early.
I guess that's always been a problem.
Mm-hmm. Like, you probably can't put cigarette ads in, like, magazines and stuff that are marketed towards children and such. Whereas I assume prior to the 90s, fair game. Okay, let's get into some good old-fashioned sexism. So here's a Kellogg's ad from the 1930s. This is for their Pep vitamins. And the big caption reads, so the harder a wife works, the cuter she looks.
Oh, nice.
Obviously, this is perpetuating the whole man go to work, woman stay home and clean, pregnant barefoot in the kitchen thing we had
I-
back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, this is funny. I have a Battleship, the game, you know.
Hmm.
My dad had it, I'm sure it was his father's before his. But the old box of Battleship is a father and son playing Battleship, you know, in that sort of like Norman Rockwell era style of painting on the front. And then on the large illustration on the front box and tucked away in the very back corner of the illustration is the mom and the daughter like in the kitchen washing dishes.
They're not allowed to play Battleship.
Well, yeah, it's like why was that included? Like they're not
Right.
even like they're not even playing the game. They're like they're in a separate room. They're not even in the same room that Battleship is taking place.
The wife is meant to be seen and not heard.
I mean, yeah, and they're like watching them play Battleship while washing dishes, and it's like, why was this added? They could have just left that out and had a nice moment between a father and son playing Battleship, but no, we have to advertise Battleship and put down the woman at the same time. It's crazy.
Nowadays, you would have the entire family playing Battleship together.
Yeah, which is crazy because it's a 2-player game.
Because now we realize that women are good for more than just cooking and cleaning. It's true.
Yeah, they're also really fucking good at Battleship.
Next up, we've got a Hoover vacuum ad from the 1960s. Christmas morning, she'll be happier with a Hoover. Now, you could definitely take this as being sexist because, you know, getting a vacuum for your wife, obviously, you're kind of nudging her like, hey, here you go, honey. Start cleaning, get back to work.
I mean, that's not really a gift to her the same way, like...
Consider this, Mel. Consider this. If
Okay, I'm
you were a
considering.
housewife of the time, would you not be pleased to have a better new vacuum? If it was your place to do the vacuuming.
I know. If it was my place, as you put it, to do the vacuuming, and I got a new Hoover vacuum for Christmas, like, sure, yeah, it might be better than the vacuum that I was using, but you know what getting a vacuum for Christmas, that's in place of maybe some new clothes, a new dress that I've been talking about.
No,
all
Mel, you
year.
got to earn that. You got to vacuum first.
We pass the department store, and every single day I say, oh, if only I could have that dress. It's too expensive, but if only someone would buy it for me. Saying that once a week for an entire year, and then opening a vacuum on Christmas Day.
Yeah, well, if only my wife could make good coffee and I could have some nice clean floors. Then maybe we'll consider the dress.
This coffee ads are crazy too.
Oh yeah, I didn't pick any of those.
Coffee ads really
but
are. Is like my my dumb wife can't make a pot of coffee, and so now my day is ruined.
They had one where a guy had his wife over his knee and he was spanking her because her coffee was bad.
What?
Yeah.
No
And she was
way.
like-
I've never
She was
seen
titillated
that.
by it. She was into it. Obviously, there was hundreds and hundreds of these. I had to narrow this down quite a bit. We could easily
I think
do a
the
part
happier
2.
with the Hoover one is good. Hoover's a good word too.
Okay, but obviously, all jokes aside, totally sexist, and it just keeps
Yeah.
perpetuating that whole, women is good for cleaning kind of thing.
It's kind of interesting how much like misogyny and I guess sort of this general idea of punching down kind of like fueled this like advertising underbelly of like an industry. Because when you think about it, like, we have multiple examples of like an advertisement selling something, but part of the appeal is that they are putting down women to sell it.
Hmm.
Like, oh, your dumb bitch wife can't make a good cup of coffee, get Folgers.
Right.
It's like, or, your dumb bitch wife have been using the dumb bitch vacuum that's not good, get her a Hoover. It's weird that that's just like how things were advertised. And, not
Well-
everything was advertised that way. I mean, a lot of advertisements played into like the, like their traditional family dynamic, but these are kind of like just being like, hey, we're punching down to sell you something up.
Well, it's because at the time, the man had all the buying power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, the man would be the one who would see these ads and actually pull the trigger on making the purchase. And maybe the woman, they would, make ads for them so that maybe they could see something and bring it up to their husband, that kind of thing. And this one is a good example of that because it shows a woman being very happy to get her new vacuum. Maybe a woman would see that and say, I want a new vacuum. This current vacuum sucks. And maybe a man could see this and say, this will make my wife happy and, we'd have a better, cleaner floor. I'm going to get this.
But here's the thing, though, is that advertisement is Christmas morning, she'll be happier with a Hoover. It's not Christmas morning, you'll be happier with a Hoover. It's still marketed towards the man.
It's true.
Because it's not you'll be happier, it's she will be happier with a Hoover.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, it's just like the man has the buying power. Society at this time prioritizes men in terms of well-paying jobs, in terms of just generally highly regarded positions in society. They don't feel the need to advertise towards men. They don't feel the need to advertise towards ethnic minorities, religious minorities, or like the sexual orientation minorities, because it's just like they don't have the money in this country anyways, and even if they did, that's not who we're trying to sell to.
Yeah, they don't even want to appear to make products for them.
No, because that's not what's going to make the money.
Here's another terrible one. This is a Warner's ad from the 1960s. I guess they made clothing and bras and such. But it's just a pear, and it says, this is no shape for a girl. So, a pear shape, which is weirdly, it's desirable now. It's these days, having a pear-shaped body is very desirable.
Yeah.
But at the time, of course, they could just come out and say, no, girls, this is not how you're supposed to look.
Yeah, once again, it's just punching down. It's so weird. It's so weird that because advertisements these days do the same thing. They just don't do them like that. There's no possible fucking way that you would make an advertisement like this these days. But think about all of the advertisements where it's compared to the leading brand, and but it doesn't even do that anymore. Now it's just a fucking Kleenex or a Clorox commercial comes on. And it's like, we're so much better than that dumb fucking company Dawn. Dawn fucking sucks, and we're better. They're products and companies will name drop other companies.
Well, that's fine. You're not disparaging somebody's body type doing that, right?
Yeah. I guess America does have this time-honored tradition though of in advertising punching down to make yourself look better. This is just a much more egregious example of it, where it's just like, come on, this is no shape for a girl. Fuck you.
Well, with this one, they're just playing into girls' already existing insecurities.
I know, it's mean.
If you do have this body type, or if you fear that you may have this body type, then you're going to be, really inclined to buy this product. And I feel like today with beauty marketing, what they do is they show this here is the pinnacle of beauty. And they don't explicitly say, if you don't look like this, you're not beautiful, which is what they're doing here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to just flat out say that.
Yeah, these days they just imply it. They say, here's the pinnacle of beauty, and if you don't look like this, then you're ugly. Buy our product so you can look good.
You're right. I would actually say that advertising is pretty much almost exactly the same in terms of women's advertising. I think that men's advertising doesn't really focus on those insecurities as much. Men's advertising focuses on other insecurities, honestly.
Yeah.
But in terms of women, it really is just we're not going to tell you that you look like shit and you're ugly, but here's what we think beauty is. And if you couldn't help but notice, that's not what you look like.
Yeah. We have come a long way in that regard. There are more inclusive beauty ads.
Oh, 100%.
But I still think, the beauty industry is still very problematic and just not helpful to young girls.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Okay, let's take a look at something very prevalent back in the day. And, we could definitely say prevalent today. It's racism.
Yeah, that's definitely still a thing.
Not so much in our advertising, though. We don't usually lean into racist to sell the new...
Wait, these are advertisements?
Yes.
First step to... Oh my god.
On the left, we've got an 1897 NK Fairbank Company ad for their fairy soap. And it's got a pristine, angelic little white girl holding her fairy soap next to a kind of disheveled-looking black girl. And she's asking, why doesn't your mama wash you with fairy soap?
Damn, this is awful.
And we'll kind of see this going forward, but the implication is that black people dirty, white people clean, they are the pinnacle of cleanliness and virtue in society.
This is also a crazy advertisement because you have the young white girl being like, "Oh, why doesn't your mom wash you with the soap that I use?" You know, it's implying that the young black child, her family can't afford it or whatever. The person who like made this illustration and made this caption, like they're like making up this scenario where they're kind of like making this advertisement from the perspective of like a child's naivety or ignorance or whatever. But it's just like, you know why. The person making the advertisement, it's like, you know why.
Yeah, I mean, if you're treated like a second-class citizen, or hardly even, why can't you afford the lovely soap products that we sell? On the right, we've got a Pear soap ad from the early 1900s. I don't know why soap is so racist, but
I mean, at the time, like, there was this general idea, you know, that African Americans were, you know, not as clean as white people. And so soap companies, like, I guess just latched onto that, which is fucked up.
So, this ad reads, "The first step towards lightening the white man's burden is through teaching the virtues of cleanliness, brightening the dark corners of the earth as civilization advances." So, we've got a very
Wow.
dignified white man in a suit washing his hands in the sink. And in the corner, we've got a little image of some savage-looking, dark-skinned person sitting on the floor being handed soap from a pristine white woman.
What the fuck, man? Hold on. The first step towards lightening the white man's burden.
That's because white people invented cleanliness.
What burden?
Being the only clean ones in this world. Every other race, every other color, dirty, disgusting. They need to be washed clean with Pear's soap. That's the idea behind this ad, apparently. Let's take a look at another one. This is a 1930s Elliott Paint and Varnish Company ad for their white veneer. And it just features two black caricatures with their comedically dark skin and big red lips, you know, the typical caricature of the time. And one
Yeah.
is painting over the other with the white veneer, and it says, "See how it covers over black."
Like the super like racist like archetypes and caricatures that were like portrayed in like minstrel shows and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as I'm sure you found out during your research on this topic, is like evidently that was just like a really popular way to advertise things.
Yeah.
That was just like a popular way to advertise your product, even if it had nothing to do with, you know, no, not many products have anything to do with race, but like, you know, your product and your sort of mission statement is entirely detached from race, but you're still using these racist caricatures to advertise your product. Like it was super popular and it was around for a while.
Yeah, it seems like you could either use these caricatures to be like, "Don't be like this," or putting them at the butt of the joke. Or you could use them as like, it seems like white people of the time thought that racist caricatures were like charming.
Like the porcelain figures that people will have in their homes.
They thought they were cute, I guess.
It's like so ingrained in their heads that like they're cute and charming because they don't view them as people. They don't view them as
Right.
equals.
Exactly.
And so,
yeah.
of course, you're going to have little figurines and you're going to put it in your advertisement because it's
They were
not,
like cute little mascot characters to them.
in these people's eyes, they exist for entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just because they're kind of like novel to them. Like when you live in an insular white world, you know, seeing like black culture and stuff, it's like new to you. And yeah, I don't know. It's very strange.
I mean, people that were alive then are still alive today.
And people forget. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that's how it's so easy to find things that didn't age well just because of the way that society progresses so quickly. Let's take a look at another. So this is good old Aunt Jemima. I mean, we both grew up with Aunt Jemima, I'm sure.
Yes.
But Quaker Oats announced in June of 2020 that it would retire its Aunt Jemima brand of syrup and pancake mix, saying that the company recognizes that Aunt Jemima's origins are based on a racial stereotype. The company is now called the Pearl Milling Company.
People were really upset about this change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about it at all.
Right.
Like if they want to change it because they think that, hey, our mascot kind of has its history and origin in a racist archetype, And we don't really want that associated with our company. We know that, maybe today people don't view it that way, but there is
Yeah.
a history there, and we'd like to change it. What's the fucking problem? I mean, all of these people pretending like they gave a shit about the mascot of the syrup
Right,
brand
and then
they fucking had.
they boycott it because they're woke now.
Yeah, it's like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
They changed it because it was based in a racist stereotype. Like,
It literally is just an evolution of a racist stereotype. They changed her appearance, but she's still Aunt Jemima.
exactly. Like, there's like the core concept is there. But the thing is like, I just don't understand how that's so offensive. Like, why you would get up in arms about changing the mascot of a syrup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like,
Well, it's the principle behind it.
are we all just gonna collectively pretend? Like, don't get me wrong, the syrup itself, it's good syrup. I liked it a lot. But like, I don't care what it's called.
Yeah.
Growing up as a child, I didn't know that the mascot of Aunt Jemima had its roots in a racist archetype and a racist stereotype.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's totally benign to us.
Yeah, I didn't know. But when I did learn, as I grew up later in life, and they were like, we changed it for that reason, I was like, oh, tight, okay, that makes sense.
Probably should have done it about, 30, 40 years earlier, but okay, good.
But hey, I mean, whatever. Seems like a pretty low stakes change. Better late than never.
Yeah, I mean, people get upset about these things because they just view it as they're bending the knee to the woke liberal
They're the
media
woke
today.
liberal fucking media.
Yeah. So Aunt Jemima started in 1889. And
Damn.
she was, well, she used to be the more typical, like, mammy stereotype.
Yeah.
And she would say things in her ads like, ladies, here's a temptitillating lunch chillins love. That kind of shit.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, so they've changed her appearance,
Yeah.
and she doesn't say mammy stuff like that anymore. But her name being Aunt Jemima is like a play on Ain't Ya Mama, which I only learned recently, but which is
Is that really what it is?
which is just terrible.
Was it Land O'Lakes? There's a butter that had a
Land O'Lakes.
that had a native Land O'Lakes had a Native American on it, and they got rid of that, which is super fine, good for them. I'm happy. But people were also really upset about that, and it's like, I mean, come on.
I don't give
like,
a
let's
damn
just-
what kind of picture is
let's-
on my butter. Put a fucking cow on my butter, for God's sake.
Yeah, like, let's be serious. Are you that upset about them removing the Native American woman from your butter?
Then everybody starts pretending this is a part of our culture, having Aunt Jemima and then the Indian woman on our butter. That I grew up with that, and that's sacred to me, a white man. And it's like, oh, bullshit.
The butter girl is so sacred to my culture.
Uh-huh.
I gotta have the butter girl.
I could have done an entire episode on just racist mascots, but I didn't want to do too many.
I'm sure you could have, honestly.
And it's about time that we have like a white stereotype as a mascot. Let's see how we feel when that's turned around on us.
I think there's white stereotypes, right? Like,
Well, like Colonel Sanders.
yeah, or I mean, I guess most people would probably go to like this sort of like stereotypical idea of maybe like a redneck for the South.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I
Somebody
think
very
of.
Southern.
If you wanted to make something disparaging to white people, you put like a white trash icon as the mascot.
Yeah,
Like a stupid, toothless redneck.
yeah, who doesn't season his food.
Okay, this is our last series of ads, and this is sexualization. So,
Okay.
this practice has not died out entirely. Have you ever watched a mobile game ad?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen quite a few of them. They're all entirely based on sexualization.
So everybody knows that sex sells, and it still does to this day. Maybe we're just using it in different areas now. So this first one is from 1975, and it is absolutely disgusting. It is for Love's Baby Soft lotion, I presume, or perfume or some product. Doesn't really matter. Basically, this ad features a very young girl, all dolled up and sexualized. It says, because innocence is sexier than you think, which is just awful.
Yeah, that makes me really uncomfortable.
I could not imagine, and this is only in the 70s too, like, you could not do this today. And you should not do this today. Stop sexualizing children. Kids are supposed to
Yeah.
be cute, not beautiful, not sexy. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. All right, we've got some Burger King ads from the 2000s. Burger King had a huge string of like over-sexualized ads.
This one's kind of funny.
Here's one. It features a woman with a shocked expression, her mouth open, next to a kind of sub-looking sandwich in a very suggestive kind of blowjob pose. It says it will blow your mind away.
This one is funny to me because I just like part of me just genuinely can't believe that like Burger King did this. Like that this was an advertisement they had.
Absolutely. And they had commercials, like live action commercials of women in bikinis eating burgers in like very sexual ways.
Yeah, like obviously it's inappropriate and it's a little raunchy, but like whatever. I probably shouldn't be shown on like maybe more juvenile networks, but like, hey, dude, if you want to air this, I mean, this is an advertisement that would fit right at home in like the ad slots on like Spike TV. You know what I mean?
Sure, I mean,
Like Spike was full of this shit.
I mean, okay, people like this shit, but I mean, the problem is that you're just using a woman's sexual appeal to sell your product. You know, you're just kind of objectifying them.
I do think that it is inappropriate,
And
but
it doesn't fit in at all in a food commercial, you know?
no, it's really out of place. But it's less bad than the first one was just so bad that I see this and I'm like, oh, okay, at least it's not a child.
Mm-hmm. True, but I mean, are women going to see this and be like, I want some Burger King now?
No.
No.
It's well, like we talked about earlier, advertising is geared towards winning over the appeal, the favor of the man. You know, this advertisement doesn't cater towards women. It actually would probably make any woman never want to eat a Burger King because it is demeaning and objectifying and sexualizing. But for any man that saw this, some hedonistic monkey-brained man who saw this and went, oh yeah, the sandwich is like a blowjob. You know?
So Burger King is basically slashing their consumer base in half just to appeal to the man?
I don't think it'll slash it in half, but yeah, they're essentially alienating a large portion of their audience to make a cool blowjob fucking advertisement.
Wasn't there like a whole Dr. Pepper campaign that was like, the drink for men? No ladies allowed. I don't know if it was Dr. Pepper, but some soda brand that did that shit.
Dr. Pepper's new brand is a manly man soda from NBC News October 2011. Yeah, Dr. Pepper, it's not for women.
Exactly. I don't know
what the fuck
got into them to make that.
Oh, okay. So it was Dr. Pepper 10. It was a 10-calorie soft drink. And I'm sure that they were like, there's no way any man is going to go out of his way to buy like a low-calorie soda. So we have to like advertise it towards men. They're like, this is literally, they're just like, it's not for women because they were just trying to get men to drink low, like calorically low soda.
Fellas, is it gay to drink diet soda?
I guess so. I mean, it looks like the entire point of the soda was because men wouldn't drink diet soda.
Right. I think it's okay to use sex in your ads because sex sells, but you should appeal to everyone. If you want to have a Burger King commercial with babes in bikinis eating burgers, you got to have some like hunked up muscle dudes also eating the burgers.
Dude, I'd be so okay with that.
Yeah, and just be like, yeah, sexy burger time. Let's go.
Look at all these sexy people eating our burgers.
Yeah, don't you want to be like them? So here's an example of just that. This is because I believe in equality. Here is a sexualized male ad. So this is a 2013 Kraft dressing ad for their zesty dressing. And
oh wow, okay.
It's just a buff dude, with nice groomed hair, some beautiful armpit hair, and his six-pack abs, laying on a picnic blanket with his blanket just barely covering his decency. And this is for salad dressing.
At least in the Burger King ad, she's about to eat the sandwich.
Right.
And this man is entirely just removed from whatever is being sold.
I mean,
he's just laying there.
This is a picnic. Presumably there's some food there. You might want some Kraft zesty dressing to go with this. Wouldn't you want some of his thick white dressing too, Mel?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was waiting on something like that. I mean, the advertisement's certainly working on me.
Yeah.
But no, this is kind of the same thing as the Burger King one. It's like, well, the Burger King one had like a bit of a pun with the it'll blow your mind away, but this is just like he's just naked. He's just naked out. First of all, being naked in the grass is crazy.
That's why you got a blanket, keep all the ants away.
That will not stop him. I know that much.
Yeah, I mean, this guy did a bunch of commercials with Kraft as well, where he was just like over sexualized and stuff. And, that's fine, fair play. Let's sexualize some men as well, too.
Yeah.
Because I guess women are going to see that and go, ooga booga, must buy Kraft zesty dressing now. And then men will never buy it because now they're going to be seen as gay for buying the sexy man dressing.
And I could understand the same thing happening with this Kraft ad where a guy sees this and is like, I don't want to have the gay dressing.
Or maybe it's like a women want me, men want to be me dressing,
That is true. So if I buy the dressing,
Yeah,
maybe I'll look like that.
exactly.
If I buy it, maybe that'll kind of be the outcome. Well, in that case, I'm won over. Now I want it again. I've gone from not wanting
Yeah.
it to wanting it.
Clearly, we're not smart enough to understand what these ad agencies are coming up with.
Yeah, the thing is people that work in advertising are scary into like understanding exactly what sells, what works, and the numbers that stick. So it's just like all of these advertisements are very like they're very premeditated. Like they're not done spontaneously or on a whim. Like these are made by people who, at least in terms of efficiency and money making, know what they're doing.
But they don't always understand the social impact that these ads will have.
Not in the future, but in the moment.
I mean, doing this research, I found a lot of ads that were just very like, who let this go through? Like even modern ads that
Yeah.
were just like, any idiot could look at this and tell you how problematic this is in 5 seconds.
No, this is a bad idea.
Like, how did an
They
entire...
need one normal person that doesn't have a marketing degree
Yeah.
in the room at all times.
I mean, surely they do that. They are always like, they do focus groups with their advertisements and stuff. There's a lot of work that goes into these, and somehow these weird-ass ad campaigns still get through. Maybe they'll be so weird or even so offensive or just shocking to people that will sell the product on its own. So let's get into some predictions and quotes that didn't age well. So with these being quotations of people, these are all up for debate, whether they did or did not say it. A lot of these are taken out of context or just kind of made up entirely and falsely attributed to people. But we're just going to take these all, at face value. We're just going to assume that these are true.
Okay.
So, 640 kilobytes ought to be enough for anybody. This was apparently said by Bill Gates, co-founder of Microsoft, in the 80s about 640 kilobytes of RAM or memory being enough for anybody. Going forward, we're never going to need any more than 640 kilobytes, which of course by today's standards is minuscule.
Laughable.
Yeah, you couldn't
Yeah.
do anything with 640 kilobytes of RAM, and these days we're getting into like 32 gigabytes and so on, and it's showing no sign of stopping.
This kind of feels a little tunnel vision-y, right? I mean, like I feel like if anybody during this time period understood the exponential climb of like computer technology and what it was being able to achieve and the power that it could have, if anybody would be able to kind of foresee that our specs and power would increase over the next few decades, I feel like it would be Bill Gates. I feel like somebody like him would definitely be like, oh yeah, we'll probably have gigabytes of RAM one day.
Sure, maybe he did, but I think if you were trying to sell like your product as being the pinnacle of technology, you might say something like this.
That is a good point. Yeah, that is
You
true.
might say, this is it. This is the greatest computer you'll ever need. We're never going to need anything better because this is already the pinnacle of technology. So buy this.
Yeah, I mean, if I was selling a computer that only had 640 kilobytes of RAM, I'd be like, hey, that's all you need.
Yeah, you can do anything with that. 640 kilobytes, fine, easy. No need for more.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got, there is no reason anyone would want a computer in their home. This was apparently said by Ken Olsen, president, chairman, and founder of the Digital Equipment Corporation in 1977. So obviously this is during the dawn of computers. And at this time, of course, computers were not sleek and compact and couldn't really do many of the things that they can do today. Clearly, this guy assumes that, it's kind of a flash in the pan. Nobody's going to want these.
The thing is like, part of me is like, yeah, this is just dumb as shit. This man is clearly has no vision. But also, like, part of me kind of gets the reasoning behind what he's saying. If it's expensive, can only do a few things for a small group of people who need it to do those things, I could understand why in 1977 you're like, yeah, and this probably isn't going to be like an every household kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did it age horribly? Yes. But I can understand the logic behind what he's saying.
I mean, he just failed to consider the fact that these things are going to get better over time.
I'd have to look it up, but I'm sure that the primary function of a computer in 1977, the Apple computer, I'm sure that its function there was a little different
Right.
than maybe what we use them for today.
You probably had to be a total huge nerd to even use a computer at the time.
Yeah, I can't imagine that it was an easy and efficient process.
Yeah, I mean, like Windows and having an actual interface for your computer with clickable icons and stuff, like you had to know commands and just deal with purely text. So computers must have been very scary to people at the time and kind of off-putting to anybody who wasn't already a computer enthusiast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that most computers were probably just being bought by like businesses
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
who needed
it
them
makes sense
from
for someone to say, well, nobody's ever going to want a computer at their house. Like, that's for a business where you have a computer guy who does the accounting or whatever. So we've got another one about tech and computers. By 2005 or so, it will become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machines. That was Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize-winning economist, in 1998. So when the internet first came out, it was very difficult for people to predict the impact that it would have.
I feel like this one is kind of a little less forgivable.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying by this time, internet's going to be obsolete as far as the economy is concerned.
I mean, the thing is as far as the economies, I mean, I think just because, in 1998, it's like the internet is still in early stages, but like it's expanding pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Like it's growing. And it's becoming more and more prevalent pretty fast. I mean, just the idea of like email and using the internet as a form of communication, I feel like, globally has some sort of impact.
Yeah.
In that regard, I think.
Well, I mean, at the time, it wasn't really a global thing. Like, not everybody had access to the internet. So it was seen as being kind of an insular, like the internet is for nerds. And internet nerds, they go over there, they do their weird little internet thing, and then everybody else, they do their thing with traditional media, as we've done for hundreds of years. All right, next up. I'm just glad it'll be Clark Gable who's falling on his face and not Gary Cooper. So Gary Cooper rejected the lead role in Gone with the Wind in 1939, and Clark Gable ended up with the part. The movie went on to be one of the most successful films in history.
Yes.
So-
that was just bad fucking luck.
Well, maybe not luck, but his agent was probably like, "No, you don't want to take this movie."
Yeah, he should have
And
kept his mouth shut.
bad call. And now you got
Bad call.
you got Gary Cooper over here saying, "Ha ha ha, this guy's he's gonna whiff it. This movie's gonna suck. I'm glad I didn't
dude,
take this
gotta
one."
Fucking blow it.
Yeah, so clearly that didn't age well. Next up, we've got guitar groups are on their way out. This was said by Dick Rowe of Decca Records after declining to sign the Beatles in 1962.
I have heard this one.
Yeah, infamously, the Beatles were shafted by a couple record labels.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, they were a very good, but they it's like a boy band at the time. It's not like their music had the nuance or complexity that it did later on, but like still a good band. This one is kind of silly to me. Guitar groups are on their way out. Says who? What the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, clearly he thought that he was reading the trends better, and that we were going to move on to something. I don't know exactly what we were going to move on to. That wasn't a guitar group, solo pop singers or something. Was going to be the next big thing, which eventually it was. But guitar groups definitely had their time in the sun for quite a while longer.
I mean, yeah, we're talking a couple decades longer.
Yeah. I mean, these days, of course, guitar groups are out. So, this guy maybe he's just way ahead of his time, by like 40, 50 years.
Yeah, he said, "What? I'm not gonna sign this band because in half a century, rock would
Yeah.
not be the most popular genre." He knew.
Uh-huh.
He knew that rap was on the come up. But here's my thing. I do have something I always think about when you hear these stories of like, oh, this person had an opportunity to manage or sign this person that they didn't really have a lot of faith in, but later on that person was super duper famous.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me wonder if those record labels that declined them, should they have accepted them instead of declining them, if they would have handled and managed them in a way that would have propelled them to the same level of success that they did have. Like, if Dick Rowe of Decca Records did sign the Beatles, I mean, would he have managed them to become the international sensation that they became?
That is true. It could have gone differently. But
Yeah,
I think a lot of people would
I don't
also
know.
argue that the bands are the ones with the talent, and it doesn't really matter who's managing
Yeah.
them. They're going to be great regardless. Like, the Beatles are still going to write amazing, timeless songs no matter who's managing
But who's
them.
going to hear? But how many people are going to hear them? I mean, if was Dick Rowe going to get them on the Ed Sullivan Show?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe, but maybe not.
Hmm. And we've got a very recent quote, but from a certain former president of ours. One day,
Yes, 45.
it's like a miracle. It will disappear. And this was Donald Trump referring to the COVID-19 virus in February of 2020.
Did you add this one just for me?
Well, if you've got a certain opinion about it.
Well, I currently have COVID.
Uh-huh.
And it is 4 years after he said that.
Yeah.
This quote's also is also really funny to me because it's just like, I mean, he's at the end of the line. I mean, he's literally just saying, "Hey, one day, as some sort of divine act, like a miracle, we'll just wake up and it'll be gone."
Hmm.
Like what? What are you talking about? That's not how disease works.
So I'm not going to defend Trump, but there were lots of disease scares before COVID, if you remember all those, like Ebola and the bird flu, where the
Both
media...
of those killed a lot of people.
That's true, but not nearly like COVID.
I mean, Ebola ravaged a lot of portions of the continent of Africa.
Well, that's not America. That's not Trump's territory.
I know, but it's just crazy to be like, hey, one day it'll just be gone. That's not, what the fuck?
It's in his best interest to minimize COVID as much as he can, because he has to give the appearance like, I'm in control of this situation. There's nothing to worry about. I'm the goddamn president.
I don't think for a moment anybody thought that he was in control of the situation.
I think his supporters did. During the early days of COVID,
yeah.
like, everybody who believed
Listen,
him
man.
was thinking, oh, yeah, this Chinese virus will be gone in no time. It's not going to catch on or anything.
During the early days of COVID, I've had COVID a couple times. Maybe I'm just unlucky. But listen, man, during the early days of COVID, I was sipping rum and cokes playing Persona 5 for 10 hours a day. And let me tell you, it didn't disappear.
Absolutely. I mean, after this, we went on to have 2 years of quarantine, and we're still dealing with the COVID today, and it'll probably just become like a yearly kind of thing.
That's the general kind of consensus, I think, is that it's kind of going to integrate into our sort of seasonal illnesses the same way that the flu does.
Mm-hmm.
Not good, but better than killing a bunch of people.
Hopefully now we can all just, during COVID and flu season, we'll all just wisen up and wear masks during these times to just reduce the spread. And hopefully, if anything, this has made us a little smarter about the spread of viruses and bacteria and such.
You know it hasn't.
It's only divided us further, unfortunately. All right, let's move on to tattoos.
Tattoos, baby, let's do it.
Those are some of the things that age terribly. Whether you get your girlfriend's name tattooed on you, or some meme at the time, or just something that you look back from your youth and you regret. The first one here, we have a rest in peace Brian Griffin tattoo. So on November 24th of 2013, in the episode Life of Brian, Brian is killed in a hit and run. And following that, a bunch of hardcore Family Guy fans went out and they got Brian Griffin tattoos to commemorate the legend and his memory. And it's all well and good. This character was very influential on people and well loved, and he will surely be missed for, 2 weeks, when on December 15th, in the episode Christmas Guy, Brian was brought back.
Yeah, I mean, he was gone for less than a month.
Yeah, they couldn't even bother to keep him dead for any significant amount of time. And
I do love the phrase hardcore Family Guy fans.
I mean, you have to be pretty hardcore to get a Brian Griffin tattoo
Yeah, you would.
without even waiting for the season to end. Like, this wasn't like a last episode of the season, Brian dies. Now we have, 8 to 12 months to wait for the next season to see if Brian ever comes back.
I mean, there's still time. Like, this is definition just jumping the gun.
Yeah, you had to get this tattoo within that 2-week period to unfortunately fall within that regrettable time frame. So now there must be, like, I would assume hundreds of people who have commemorative Brian tattoos, and he's still alive and with us.
It's better than getting like a portrait of somebody who's
Like a disgraced celebrity?
yeah, like a disgraced celebrity.
You mean someone like Michael Jackson, Hulk Hogan, or Kanye West?
What did Hulk Hogan do?
Well, Hulk Hogan got his sex tape leaked or something.
Well,
where-
I knew he had a sex tape leaked, but doesn't that make him a victim?
No, well, okay, so he was a buck for a cuck relationship, and he was bucking.
Oh,
He was bucking some girl, and during that sex tape, he was dropping the N-word and saying a bunch of racial slurs and stuff.
oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
So
I thought they were called bulls.
bulls, yeah, whatever. I'm not familiar with the terminology.
My bad.
So,
Okay, I didn't know he was yelling slurs during his sex tape.
well, I don't know if he was yelling them during, but there was some kind of conversation or comments made during in the course of that tape, which were not good. So starting on the left, we have some just awful Michael Jackson tattoo. I'm not even convinced.
Yeah,
this
that
is
looks
real.
like shit.
And it says, "Forever with us, MJ. He touched so many."
Oh yeah, it's a joke. It's okay. There's no fucking way. I would believe that was just like a stupid looking tattoo that somebody got because they loved Michael Jackson and then later maybe fell out of good graces with him. But the bottom line, he touched so like there's no way that's a real tattoo.
Okay, even if this specific one is not a real tattoo, there are tons of Michael Jackson tattoos out there. And
There's probably thousands upon thousands.
Yeah, I mean, considering that Michael Jackson later in his life was very controversial and tied up with a pedophilia scandal, didn't really age so well.
He was the biggest pop star on the planet.
Uh-huh.
So it's just like there's gonna be a good amount of people who probably have his face on their body.
Yeah. And now you have the face of a suspected accused pedophile on your body. Another famous musician that was loved for many years before having a terrible turning point is Kanye West.
Yes.
And this tattoo studio is offering to remove your Kanye West tattoos for free.
That's charity work right there.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine getting a rapper producer tattooed on your body. Somebody who's single-handedly done a lot to change the landscape of hip-hop. And then you find out that they're a Nazi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd be pretty upset.
Kanye West is like one of the biggest artists of our generation. He's hugely influential. I can imagine that there are hundreds of thousands of Kanye tattoos out there. And then
Does that say Carpe Diem?
It does, yeah.
I'll go fuck yourself. I'm not going to be one of those guys who, like, dick rides Kanye and is like, oh, but he made Graduation and all this shit. Like, no, he's a Nazi for real. But it is still pretty disappointing. I was never, like, a huge Kanye fan. But, like, what he did in terms of, like, changing the landscape of, like, hip-hop production and the sort of, like, aesthetics and sort of like sonic palettes that we use today. Like he really did have a huge influence, and it's really upsetting that he turned out to be just a fucking garbage human being.
Yeah.
And the thing is we should, and like the ego was always there, because the whole thing with like him yanking the microphone out of Taylor Swift's hand I mean, for God's sake, she was a child.
Yeah.
You know, she was like a child. She was like 16 years old.
I mean, he was always a dickhead, but we didn't really know that, how despicable he was. We just thought
Yeah,
that's just
I mean,
Kanye. He's like kind of a crazy, goofy guy.
oh, he's kind of like a dick, but he's like a genius. He's like a
Yeah.
genius asshole.
Hmm.
But now he's a not genius bigot. So
Yeah, unfortunately.
yeah, it is unfortunate, but fuck him.
So let's get into some memes that didn't age well. So,
Dude, I have a whole video about memes and how they age.
so memes are of course very much a product of their time, and they usually have
Yes.
their time in the sun for 2 weeks before completely dying out, becoming totally irrelevant. So they are excellent fodder for being things that didn't age well. So first we've got not exactly a meme, but just a post from Robinhood. Robinhood is an app for investors, people to get into investing very accessibly. And they posted, everyone should be able to participate in the stock market. And of course, this aged poorly because in 2021, they stepped in and froze trades for GameStop after a bunch of people on Reddit decided to start pumping that stock. And it allowed just normal people to start manipulating the stock market the same way that rich people do. And when that happened, Robinhood stepped in and said, no, you can't do this anymore. So they're suppressing normal people from participating in the stock market. Meanwhile, rich people who are not using Robinhood and investing in their ways can continue to do all of the same shady shit that, normal average people attempted to do. We're not allowed to spin the stock market in the same way that they do.
The situation was really unfortunate because, as you've put it, it's like, normal people who do not have the prestige and power that the, upper echelon of Wall Street in the stock world have. It's like, finally, we've got some power on our hands. We're going to show those millionaire and billionaire rich pricks what the power of the proletariat can be.
Mm-hmm.
And then Robinhood was like, nah, go fuck yourself. We're shutting it down.
And with a name like
On a
Robinhood,
whim.
too. Steal from the rich, give to the poor.
Very ironic. Very
yeah.
ironic.
All right, next up we've got a meme. It's a scene from The Princess Bride. One character asks, what is this guy's name? Do you know this guy's name?
Andre the Giant?
Sure, what's his character's name, though?
I've never seen the movie.
Okay, anyway, Andre the Giant asks, why are you wearing a mask? Were you burned by acid or something like that? And Wesley replies, no, it's just that they're terribly comfortable. I think everyone will be wearing them in the future. Now, did this one age poorly or did it age well?
Well, I mean, I guess by definition, it aged well. I guess.
Okay, next up we've got a farm sanctuary ad featuring Demi Lovato. It says, turkeys are bright, social animals who enjoy being pet. Just ask Demi Lovato. There she is, sitting nicely with a smile on her face, holding a turkey. And later down the line, we've got a Thanksgiving post from Demi Lovato with a turkey in the oven.
So you want a face for your cause, for your advertising, a recognizable one. And this is what happens when you get a face that people recognize but isn't a member of your cause.
Get a vegan to be in your ad campaign.
Yeah, exactly. If you're an animal sanctuary, you get a vegan or a vegetarian celebrity to be in your ad campaign, then you don't have to worry about them kind of like, besmirching your good name by going back on their word.
Right. This one's just especially funny side by side, just seeing her smiling, holding a turkey, and the next one she's just pulling a turkey out of the oven.
It's the same turkey.
It's the same turkey. Did I mention that turkeys are also delicious? Here's the last one. In 1998, Marvel offered Sony the movie rights to almost all of their characters, including Iron Man, Thor, Black Panther, and Ant-Man, for just $25 million. Sony counter-offered with $7 million for just Spider-Man because they thought nobody gives a shit about any of the other Marvel characters. I'm guessing that's not a direct quote. But as we all know, Sony owns Spider-Man in a lot of cases, whereas Marvel still holds the rights to their other characters for movie purposes. So in 1998, long before the MCU, Sony could have had the movie rights to every Marvel character. And the money that they could have made with that kind of power.
See, that's the thing though. It's back to the Beatles thing. Would
Uh-huh.
they have made the same quality work? I don't think so.
Well, I mean, they did make good Spider-Man movies, which were
That
very
is true, but
profitable.
how do you think? I mean, I don't know how. Those were also due in part to Sam Raimi, and I don't know if Sam Raimi
Sure, what if Sam Raimi
could
had
have.
headed up the Sony MCU, though? Or some shit like that.
I get that this is like, okay, yeah, the most profitable fucking franchise,
Mm-hmm.
or one of the most profitable franchises of all time. Yeah, obviously that would suck to pass up on that, but like at the time, nobody did give a shit about Iron Man.
And you're right, before 2008, they were absolutely right. Nobody cares about Marvel characters. Like, nobody knows who Black Panther and Thor are, or Ant-Man. Like, people just know Spider-Man, probably.
The big Marvel characters. I mean, all. I mean, I had a lot of like Marvel toys when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and every single like sort of thing it marketed Spider-Man, the Hulk,
Wolverine. Yeah.
Wolverine. Yeah, like those were like the big
Yeah, there's
guys.
like a small handful of Marvel characters that were established already. So it can be kind of daunting to say, we have all these unestablished characters we now own the rights to. How are we going to make them into the next big thing?
Yeah,
But of course,
it is
that did end up happening.
because I'm not really a big superhero film guy, but it has been cool seeing how they've kind of taken pretty unknown characters and bringing them into like a more mainstream popularity. Like nobody fucking knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were
Hmm.
before that movie, and now they're huge. Nobody knew who the fuck Peacemaker was,
Yeah.
and now John Cena's Peacemaker is super popular.
I mean, it's due in part to probably the casting behind these as well. Because the first Iron
Oh,
Man was
100%.
Robert Downey Jr., who, well,
Yeah,
I mean, that was kind of like his
who
comeback
also was
movie.
not that popular at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So that was a very risky movie. That actually just paid off. Okay. Well, this has been Things That Aged Poorly. And we will see you next Tuesday on the next episode of The Long Couch. Bye.
See ya. Bye bye.